Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. This is the RM of Springfield meeting agenda for February the 10th of 2026, starting at exactly 1 p.m. Calling the meeting to order. All council is present. I'll identify council, and to my right in descending order is Deputy Mayor and Councillor Fuel. Next will be Councillor Kaczynski. Next will be Councillor Miller, and next will be Councillor Warren. If I can get a mover and a seconder for item number 3 on the agenda, that's approval of the agenda there. Councillors Miller and Warren. Any additions or notes with regards to the approval of the agenda? I see none. If I can get a show of hands posing the question, those in support. That is approved unanimously. Approval of the minutes, please. That's item number 4. Show of hands or a mover and a seconder. Tarian and Fuel. Any modifications to the Committee of the Whole minutes for December the 9th? I see none. And if I can pose the question, those in support with the show of hands. That is unanimous, so carried. And we'll go to delegations there. We're a bit early there, but if council's in agreement, we can start a little bit earlier. I see Mr. Klippenstein is here. Mr. Klippenstein, you ready to go there? Yeah. We'll give you 10 minutes, sir, for starting with your name there, and we'll go from there.
And then I presented a presentation. I'm not sure if I'm driving that or you're driving it. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so I just wanted to, I guess while we're getting it up and running there, I haven't spoken to council in quite some time here, so quite a few things have changed since the last time I spoke to you all. So I just wanted to kind of give an update, just to kind of let you guys know where things are going, and what to expect kind of moving forward. There should be a full screen mode there. If you exit out of this and then you go back to the main menu, then there's a picture on the top left there. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Oh, it's because you have multiple screens open, I think.
We'll start your timer, Mr. Klippenstein.
Okay, great. I can talk really fast if I have to. It's always the pressure when everyone's like looking at you to. It always works so easy until it needs until people are watching you. Sure. Yeah, we can ignore the notes on the side. They don't necessarily always line up, but yeah. So Schinkel Properties, we are a family-run business. This is a picture of Bob Schinkel and his family, who has the pleasure of working with two of his sons. You can see the two arrows over two of his boys there, and then his daughter to the left lives in New Zealand. She married a New Zealander, and they run a kiwi farm. And I think he actually just got off a plane like 3 hours ago from visiting her. So that's his family. Moving on to the next slide there. So Schinkel Properties, what are we? And again, the reason I'm here today is because we are investing in this community. We already are invested in this community. And just wanting to let you guys know again, who we are. We're your neighbors. So there's three separate divisions within Schinkel Properties. We have a property management group, we have a hotel group, and we have a development group. We own about 10 different hotels, three in different provinces, the other seven in Manitoba here. And Schinkel Properties employs about 300 people across all of our different divisions. With this, so you will recognize, so we have developments kind of all over the place, but we also own and manage commercial property, and the commercial property that you guys would know the best would be the commercial building on Main Street in Oakbank here. So that was acquired by us, I think, about 2 years ago or so. And I think we're just in the process, I think, of working with the building inspector on a whole facelift of that building. It's getting a little old in the tooth there, so we just want to change it up. All right, so moving on to the next one. Yeah, so who am I? I'm the VP of Real Estate. I've been in this role since January of 2020. Yeah, this is my family. This is my wife Amanda and my son Mason and my daughter Jade. All right, so what is the purpose of what we're trying to talk about? And so the reason I'm here before you guys today is I want to walk you guys through this project in particular, how we looked and analyzed this project, why we think there's advantages to it, a project overview, talking about some of the parking and amenities, the construction and phasing, and just how we're going about trying to communicate that. Let's move on to the next one. So it's gonna be a little bit tough to see on the screen there, and we don't need to run through all these, but whenever we look at a new project, we look through a whole bunch of different things, such as stakeholder input, traffic, access, policy, phasing, infrastructure. We look at all these different things when we look at a project. Does it make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, we don't move ahead with the project. But these are the things that we look at. And for this particular project, it checked a lot of boxes. We move to the next one. Yeah, we also really like, and this is kind of a zoomed out Google Earth picture here, just so we can all kind of see where this project is located. This is the very, very northmost property kind of within the town. And we really like it. We really like it for a lot of reasons. It's 15 minutes from Selkirk and Winnipeg. I said 15 minutes from Birds Hill, but you're probably driving pretty slow to get there in 15 minutes. And it makes sense as we're adjacent to other medium density housing. So we're not building this project across from a single family home or something like that. We feel like it suits the neighborhood, if you want to call it that. Moving on to the next. Yeah, so what is this project? So since from the last time we talked to you, we spent a lot of time developing and working on this project. So this is what we're putting forth. Uh, our target, and we understand this community is a bedroom community. There's a lot of families in this community. So we're really trying to target is 2 and 3 bedroom homes, aimed to support young families and seniors. And with that, we're providing a lot of additional parking. We also think that this style makes sense. This is just a 2-story. We're only intending to build 2-story. We're not going to build 4 or 6, or we're not proposing that. We're trying to find something that blends into the neighborhood that can provide the type of housing that meets the neighborhood. So this is kind of an elevation view of what it would look like. And again, hard to see, but the overall site plan. Um, it's important for us to recognize that we're only moving ahead on phase 1 of 4 on this project. But in order for us to move forward on the project in general, we have to master plan the entire thing. We need to make sure that we understand how we're going to build out the entire project so that way we can engineer all the drainage accordingly. So that's why even though we're only building a small portion of this to begin with, we understand what the whole thing is going to look like and we can engineer to that. So moving on to the next one. One of the things that always becomes a concern when it comes to multifamily is parking. And parking, I think, is incredibly important, especially for communities like this, because we live in a rural community, right? We live in a community where people need to drive. We're not in Winnipeg. We don't have a ton of public transit everywhere. Families have vehicles. So we want to make sure, especially because we're on the edge of town, we want to make sure that parking is not an issue. And the last thing that we want to see is we don't want to see people parking alongside the highway, right? So we've pulled back on density of this site to be able to provide additional parking. So when you look actually at our parking table, which is going to get submitted along with our building plans, we actually have over 100 additional parking spots to the minimum. So we recognize that parking is a requirement and that is a challenge often, and we want to make sure that we have enough to suit, our residents. So currently, our current ratio is over two spots per unit. So moving on. So some of the amenities that we're looking to provide here, and again, we're aiming towards families, is, we want to provide a little playground for the kids and a small dog park for people with pets. Typically, our apartment buildings are pet friendly, small pet friendly, I should say, but so we want to provide a place that people can take their dogs out, exercise them, and have their kids have a place to play as well. We're also purposely putting that on the north side of the property, so that way we don't have a dog park, on the south side, which is adjacent to our neighbors there. We don't need to have dogs barking to disrupt them. On to the next one. Yeah, so this is just kind of our overall construction phasing. Again, it's a little bit hard to see on the smaller screen there, but we're planning to build phase 1, and there's a total of 4 phases of this full construction build out. Phase 1 is a small section of that, and I'm really pleased to have worked with Colleen and her team to be able to make this work, understanding the challenges that we're facing. So yeah, we're excited to move forward on that. The next one. So with this project, so this is a bit of a unique project in the sense that this isn't just us building a multifamily building. There's a lot that goes here. Currently, there actually isn't the infrastructure to support this type of project. So alongside of us simply building a building, we need to upgrade the water main within town, which we're fully willing to do. So yeah, so it comes with some pretty major off-site utility upgrades, which we've been working with Colleen and her team again for probably a year now.
1 minute.
1 minute?
I don't know, looking at the things are going slow.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm almost done here. Yeah, so we're at that point now where we're basically ready to get going. We've signed a construction contract through our engineering consultant, J.R. Cousins. Engineering plans have been reviewed and approved by municipal staff and engineering. And we believe that we're going to be getting started on this project in April to be able to bring water to the site. Yeah, so we're very excited about that. Moving on to the next one. So just to kind of put it into perspective, I showed you the overall site plan there before. This is essentially what the site is going to look like in terms of the build out for probably the next few years. So it's a relatively small build to the overall size of the site. And again, we're totally happy with that. But you know, this is what we can expect our neighbors to see for the next bit of time. On to the next one. Yeah, and so with that, I feel like it's important for us to be able to, you know, engage with our neighbors. And so we've spent, I think we had two meetings with the condo corp there, kind of their board of directors. I'm not sure exactly what you would call them. And I know Councillor Miller was kind enough to provide me with contact there to kind of set that up. So yeah, we and the nice thing with that, and I spoke to Jill overall, who's kind of I call her the ambassador of that group. All this information, I don't think she was able to come here today, but all this information we've already shared with her. Because we want her to know what to expect, right? You know, this is going to be a change for them there, and change is always difficult. So we want to work alongside with them. So we want to be respectful to that existing community. We anticipate that, like I said, the utility work would start probably in April. The building construction probably late summer, early fall. Basically, just try to get the foundation in before winter. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, so I got one. You say what were your plans for the dog park?
Yeah.
Can you explain that, sir?
Just a place for people to let their dogs off leash. So it's a fenced in area where people can just kind of take their dogs and let them run around.
And now the
So it'll be within the phase 1 or 2 or 3?
It'll be within one of the phases. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly which phase that was showing up, and we'd have to kind of coordinate that a little bit. But yeah, this plan is our overall conceptual plan for the site. I'm not sure what point we'll build that dog park. It probably won't be for phase 1, but in one of the subsequent phases, it would be.
It's good to you're going ahead of the game there. I think we've been getting calls about the dog parks for quite some time, 3.5 years that we've been here. So we're looking at that ourselves, but that's good that you have it in this area here. So I commend you on that. What about trees? I see the trees in your schematic there. Are you looking at adding as many trees as possible there?
Yeah, you know, it's a nicely treed site right now. I think the one thing that is kind of nice about us building this probably slower in multiple phases is that we'll be able to, like I said, change is difficult. So with phase 1 under construction, I think we'll be able to keep the majority of the existing trees there. So that'll have a lesser impact, slower for our neighbors. Once we do the full build out, I'm not sure how many of those trees we'll be able to save. We'll try to save as many as we possibly can. Part of the challenge is even if our site plan doesn't show us building right to the trees, sometimes just building adjacent to can disturb them enough that it damages the trees, which is a shame. We'd rather keep existing trees, but we do, and as we show on our site plan here, we do like adding landscaping and trees and shrubbery to our development, so that will be put in as we build out our site.
Okay. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Klippenstein, for considering our community, once again, I think these are important things. We need housing, as you know, and this particular project, I have a couple of questions. You're probably familiar with the similar concept in St. Anne River crossing.
Okay.
They have a variety of complexes like this, and yours actually blows that out of the water because you've given us the ability to provide a lot more lots for cars and stuff like that. As you know, St. Anne and obviously our community doesn't really have active transportation, and we're a commuting kind of community. What is the anticipated, I don't want to put you on record, but the anticipated rent for these kinds of units, just to give us a sense of what you're trying to draw to this community? I know you said
Yeah.
seniors and young families, but
Yeah, so I mean, part of that's a little bit difficult. I mean, I'd say on probably average, probably a one bedroom is probably, we don't have one bedrooms, but I would guess that one bedroom is probably around 1,500. Two bedrooms are probably around 1,650, and about 18 plus for three bedroom. That's typically where it goes.
yeah, and that's fine. In terms of your additional phases, 2, 3, 4, are you doing that in terms of the water or in terms of the demand, so to speak? I mean, our
No,
community.
there's huge demand. I mean, we manage, part of our company here is property management. So we manage the Oak Leaf building that's on Main Street there.
Mm.
There's huge housing demand in this community. I mean, there's huge housing demand in Manitoba. Manitoba has the lowest vacancy rate across all of Canada.
Wow.
I think we're at 2% in Manitoba, and that will be even lower as you go more rural, right? So 2% in Winnipeg, that might be 1%, 1.6% in communities like this. That's not good. What that ends up doing is it ends up just really because supply and demand, the less supply, the more demand there is, the more that rents go up. And I'm sure you've heard and talked to people about how rents have increased dramatically over the last number of years. And there's a ton of factors for that. Construction costs have gone up and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the reason we're only building phase one now is because of the lack of water. Yeah, there would be more than enough demand to build this site out to its entirety.
Excellent. And thank you again for taking the initiative to meet with your neighbors. So in your initial discussions with Jill overall, the condo owners, are they receptive, or what is your take on their?
Yeah, I think they've been, I think the very first time we met, they were very excited that we weren't putting like some kind of factory there, because the zoning there, the proposed zoning could have allowed for all kinds of stuff. So yeah, they've been very receptive for that. I think they like the idea of families kind of living beside them. I think they like to stay in the loop of what's going on there. So we want to respect that. I mean, as anybody that's having change happening there, we want to communicate that with them. So yeah.
And those would be my final words, is just keep in close contact with with the condo owners, because I mean, you want to be neighbors, right? And you want to be good neighbors, and I think you guys probably will be.
Yeah.
So that's a positive, and I see this as a positive initiative. So that answers my questions. Thank you.
Great.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Klippenstein, for your presentation also. One little concern that I have is that you got kids' playground up against the highway. And that's a safety concern for me when I see something like that. Is there any preventative measures that you'll be putting in place that maybe we can have in place to secure the security of the children? Because I'm familiar with developments like this, and they do have lots of young families in developments like this. So I do have that concern.
Yeah, I mean, there would be, we could shift things around possibly. I mean, we also think that there's a bit of a further setback at the highway than there currently is right now, and I'm not actually sure what that currently shows. But yeah, we'd be looking at we're okay with putting in additional posts or whatever if we need to. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, we've been trying to work with MTI to get the speed limit lowered there all the time, and it just seems like they haven't been working with us, it feels like. So this is even why it's more important, because I believe right now it's either at 90 in that area going out. And we've been trying to get it to a 70.
Yeah, I
believe-
mean, we would be in full support as well, like just for our own tenants to if that was lowered or if that area was extended, because as you know, everyone accelerates through those zones. Yeah, we would have no problem being in support of you guys reducing the speed limit or extending that 70 zone.
Yeah, I'd be recommending a 50 actually with all this development happening here. Thank you.
Councillor Kaczynski.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a few questions. How many residents gonna be all together in that development when it's finished?
I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, I think it's approved for, I think 112 units. So double that. I'm not sure how many it would be. Just as in, just because we put a 2-bedroom unit on the market doesn't mean that one person lives there, right? Or you have a couple living in a 3-bedroom unit. Yeah. So it's hard to say.
And how many entrance and exits you gonna have in that development? Only one
Yeah,
for all these people?
yeah.
How about for safety reason? And if they're
So
gonna
part of-
go to the one area only to escape, then
Yeah, so that's a good point. So when this project went through its initial review, it actually went through MTI review. And so MTI, like Manitoba Traffic and Infrastructure, they actually review this. And so part of the construction of this development is actually some highway improvements. So so that will have to be done at some point. We've actually been in discussions with the condo corp adjacent to us because they would actually like to see possibly partnering with us and doing some of their own highway improvements at the same time. So, but to answer your question, yeah, Manitoba Traffic and Infrastructure has looked at this, and they only want one entrance. They would probably argue that one entrance is safer than two.
okay. So next question, you said you're gonna have extra parking for residents. Now, do you gonna have extra parking for the guests when they come there and visit these
That's
people?
typically what's
Because there
included.
is no other way to park.
Yeah, so that's typically what's included. When bylaws are written for, the amount of parking per unit, they typically account for that. So I think the bylaw for Springfield is like 1.2 or 1.5, something like that. So if you build a threeplex, then you have to have 1.2 or 1.5 parking spots per unit. Like I said, we're exceeding that. We're over 2. So to answer your question, there should be plenty of extra parking.
So then my next question is gonna be, if people come there to live and now they have RVs or boats or,
Yeah, we probably won't want them to store their RVs or boats there.
so it's just gonna be vehicles, whatever they own and nothing else be allowed on that development.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to store RVs on there. Most apartment sites wouldn't allow that anyway.
Another thing, like for the snow removal, there's gonna be high density, seems like, this development. So how you gonna manage the snow in that area?
That's a very common problem. Like I said, we're also a property management group. We have thousands of units that we manage as a company. So I mean, and I'm not a property manager, so I would let our professionals deal with that. But likely what'll happen is on phase 1, we're only using like 40% of the space. So I'm guessing that our snow removal would probably just push it somewhere else on the site. Once the site is fully built out, then they would have to haul it off site.
And who's gonna be paying for that?
Oh, that's us, 100% us. Just
Yeah.
like snow removal, just like garbage removal. Even I think we have to build a lift station to be able to get our sewer into the gravity line. That's fully our costs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No other questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Klippenstein. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Then we'll move on to item 5.2. That'll be Nomar, and you have other presenters with you. We'll give you 10 minutes to start with your names.
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Nomar. I'm from the RM of Springfield Water and Waste Department. I'm the Asset Management Coordinator. I'm here with Simon and Luke from Green Drop. I believe Luke is on with us at Zoom.
So he's still in the lobby. He's having trouble.
Oh,
Luke, are you online there?
It's Mike Leung.
oh,
If he's having trouble, we can continue. I can.
You can hear us there, Mike?
M Leung, Leung. I assume he's having trouble. We can continue. I can field the questions.
Okay. So we'll start you at 10 minutes once you start again there.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm here. Next slide, please. Next. Yeah, thank you. I'm here proposing to develop a urban forest management plan for Oakbank, Dugald, and Anola. The project will combine public input, professional tree inventory data, and climate information to create long-term planning, long-term plan for planting and maintaining to protect our municipal-owned trees. The plan will identify where new trees should be planted, which species are best suited to local conditions, and how pruning and risk management should be prioritized. It will also include clear actions and performance targets over the next 5, 10, and 20 years. The overall goal or purpose is to improve public safety, increase tree canopy, strengthen climate resilience, and ensure Springfield's community have healthy and sustainable urban forests for future generation. Next slide, please. Where we where we are today. Last year, we completed a tree inventory in Oakbank and captured 2,000 trees, and it serves as a baseline to build from. But this information has limitation. It only covers Oakbank and does not include Dugald and Anola. It also doesn't have canopy analysis and long-term planting strategy or risk-based pruning plan tied to that data. This management plan expand that work across tree community and converts that input data into practical planning tools that staff and council can use for long-term planning and decision making. And I'll turn it over to Simon Greendrap to go over the technical details and costing.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My colleague Mike Leung was trying to call in via Teams. He's in Calgary. He's more of an expert on the urban forestry management. So I will take over the presentation and answer what I can.
If you can just state your name, you may have already, but
Oh yeah, sorry. Simon Peacock. I'm an arborist with Green Drop Tree Care out of Winnipeg.
okay.
So after speaking with Nomar, he let me know that you had done a tree inventory for Oakbank last year, and he would be looking to extend that into Anola and Dugald, and a tree inventory to better understand the species and location and health and risk factors of the trees that you have. It can help investigate complaints or the necessary steps to be taken to improve safety or getting a canopy analysis of the communities. Pardon me. And an urban forestry plan can have many functions. It can also help with pruning strategies long term. So creating a pruning cycle for the public trees in these town to keep up with safety measures, road clearances, things like that, and also creating a tree planting plan for these communities so that you can long term 5, 10, 20 years down the road set goals for tree planting in the area, get an idea of the canopy cover you have in these towns, and you can use that data to see what you're currently at, and then also extrapolate that data to predict what you need to plant for each community to get to a certain specific level of canopy cover for those communities. We can go to next slide, please. Another part of it can be public consultation, getting feedback from the community members for just their current opinions on the state of the trees in these towns, and then using that to further the plan and direct it towards what's actually necessary to meet the needs of the town. And with that, you can even create bylaws for tree pruning and tree planting, developers needing to plant specific trees, and it can go a bit further than that as well. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Another part of the urban forestry plan can be training for frontline staff to ensure that they are trained in tree pruning and removal and planting, and properly planted trees have a much lower mortality rate if they're planted too deep or not maintained or cared for properly, and creating proper pruning cuts on trees can affect long-term health of trees as well. So within an urban forestry plan, you can include training for staff as well. And Green Drop. So Green Drop has been working with Nomar, and we've been discussing the FCM urban forestry analysis grant through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, which covers up to 80% funding and up to $175,000 to do just what I was speaking of: a tree inventory analysis, canopy analysis, all of the things listed in this list here. And so everything in red is what Green Drop would identify as necessary or essential for these communities. And the items in blue are still included under the funding opportunity, but not as essential if you look at everything as a whole. So if we were to apply on behalf of the RM of Springfield, Springfield would be the lead applicant through the entire grant process, and Green Drop would simply be a partner just putting together the application, because it's quite a long process. And we would work together with you to make sure everything aligns with what you're looking for if we were to proceed with the application process. And if any work is awarded, Green Drop could then carry out all of the work listed in here, with all the funding and all the reporting flowing through the RM, and Green Drop just simply being the partner to carry out the work.
That's it.
Yeah. I apologize. Mike was having trouble. He's in Calgary. I think he could have explained a few of those items further, but we can also follow up after the fact if that's possible.
Okay. Any questions from council? Deputy Mayor?
Once again, thank you for the presentation. Just looking at the program itself, I'm glad to see that FCM has a program for us to apply for a grant. One question I have is the type of trees that we would be planting in the urban areas. Hopefully they would be ones that aren't getting the diseases and have longevity. As we know that some of these trees can grow over 100 years and they get fairly big, and it's a major loss when they get a disease and they're lost. So just one of my recommendations that we've looked at that process also.
Oh, good. Yes. Yeah. And we fully believe in right tree, right place, and choosing a native species going in the proper spot. We wouldn't plant a large tree under power lines or what have you. That would all be part of the urban forestry plan, is that the correct trees are being planted in proper places where they're going to survive and do the most good for the communities.
Thank you.
We have a subdivision that we're looking at. Used to be near Cedar and Main, Mrs. Pinkerton's old house. Not that you would know that, and Van Ryssel's. There's large oak trees there. This is probably a question or just a comment to Nomar and yourselves there. These are kind of trees that we're trying to save. I'd much rather see a beautiful big oak there and the other trees. I don't know a real tree from the other, but I do love the oaks, and this is oak bank. So that's something that we'd like to save there. But I'll ask you about the climate analysis there. I find it very intriguing that the canopy, and I guess in a warming climate there, I would hope that the more trees would kind of keep that down somewhat. I don't know if that's very
Exactly. Yeah.
rudimentary.
Yes. Yeah. So like the more canopy cover you have, the more benefits you're getting from trees with shade, oxygen production, cleaning the atmosphere. There's a whole host of benefits, and that directly correlates with the more trees, the better your environmental air will be.
That's great. And as well, one of Nomar's a year or so back was mentioning a cost for trees and so on like that. I know when I was in the RCMP there, if you had an accident and a couple of trees were knocked down and so on, there was no cost for a tree. Now that that's changed, it's as long as it's an RM tree and it's not out in the middle of nowhere, there's a cost. Like there's a cost for hydro poles, $3,000 is the last time I remember, and it's probably double that. So that's good to have this, that we could get that money back from MPI. That's all I have. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Warren?
I just have a small question. So this is for Oakbank, Dougald, and Anola. And so, and I get that there are more communities. And so we also have Cooks Creek and Hazel Ridge, which is along the provincial highways. Do we not have trees anywhere? Or is that just a liability with hydro cutting down all of our trees? Like, is there hydro lines? Do we even look at like the smaller communities?
That's a
You
good
know what I
question.
mean?
Yeah.
Because Dougald has a lot of streets and a lot of trees, and Oakbank has a lot of streets and a lot of trees, and Anola as well. But then we still have Hazel Ridge, and we still, Cooks Creek, and they're not huge communities. They're along a provincial highway. Do those not count in our tree, or like?
I'll discuss that.
If you could just take that seat, Nomar, there.
Oh, sorry, Nomar.
I can discuss that with Green Drop to
Okay.
see if.
I'm just curious
yeah.
because like they are still part of.
Yes.
They're not a huge community. They're
Yes.
still their own little
Yeah.
entities, right?
I'm just concerned with the amount, if approved, with the
Yeah.
amount of money left.
Right.
I'm not
Right.
saying they're less important.
No.
but they're important
I know.
as well.
And it's good that the FCM has this grant. I mean, the total at the bottom here, I don't know if anybody can read it, is 89,000, and with the grant, it's down to 16,800.
Yeah.
So that's exceptional. It's nice that FCM puts these initiatives forward for communities.
Yeah, but definitely I could discuss that with
Yeah,
Green Drop
I'm
if
just
we could
curious.
squeeze that in, and hopefully we
I'm just
can.
curious.
Yeah, of course.
I don't want to see
Yeah.
necessarily trees go along a provincial highway and then all of a sudden we have snow blockage and traffic issues and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I was just curious.
Yeah, it's I will discuss that for sure. They're
Okay.
not forgotten.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Okay.
Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. And I would echo what Councillor Warren says, don't exclude Cooks Creek and
Yes.
Hazel Ridge, because
Yeah.
I think they're important in this kind of a format. So my questions for you, Nomar, are any other communities, have they done this project? Either with FCM or outside of that? I think the city of Winnipeg has a canopy project as well that was done several years ago, but do you know of other municipalities that have undertaken this?
Sorry.
Yes. Oh yeah, so with this grant specifically, no one that I'm aware of has been successful because it was just launched in just this past fall, and the deadline is April 15th. So as of right now, no one has taken yet advantage. We've been trying to help communities just with the application process because we know everyone doesn't have the resources or time to do such a long process with it. So not that I know of, but Green Drop has completed these types of projects with other communities with urban forestry plans and long-term planning in North Battleford and Estevan and a few in Alberta, but we're looking to hopefully do more in Manitoba because I think it's a great initiative by FCM.
Thank you for that. The other question, maybe for you, maybe for Nomar, is are we bound if we receive the grant to to go with Green Drop? Nothing against your company, but
Oh, yeah.
is there a contract flexibility with other?
Oh yeah, like there's no written contract where Green Drop must complete the work. We just hope it can be a mutually beneficial partnership. But I do understand some communities have a procurement process or they have to go through proper channels. So it's totally open to that too, for sure.
Great, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
I like what Councillor Warren had added. And I'm just wondering if, Nomar, if we could go back maybe and look at those small towns and add this into the grant numbers, because it would be nice to get the 80% coverage. And we are only at 16,800 for the 3 big urban towns. And why not try to get them included if we can under the same grant process?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, I'll speak on that if that's yeah, like certainly that could be rejigged and resubmitted. I'm sure we could rework the numbers, and that list of items doesn't all have to be applied for. So if we exclude a few of the items, we can probably make it fit to fit whatever you're hoping to include. I think it's very flexible. We can work within the means of what you're hoping for. So I don't think there's any trouble there. We can go back with Nomar and rework it for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kozinski?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Who decided in our community what kind of trees we planting? Like we just did West Oakbank there. I think 2 streets we plant new trees. Who decided what species of the trees we do?
Don't know actually. I actually don't know who decides which trees are planted there. I'm gonna have to get back on you on that.
Okay, because what I want to ask, because I have leaf trees on my property. One, it's hybrid poplar, and the mess that tree makes it on the yard, it's unbelievable. I have 1 acre and I have the leaves all over the yard and have to clean up and everything else. So how did we planting? Are we engage our community and say what trees they want in special area? Because I think we put spruce trees, there is very little maintenance to them. And you can put quite few of them and you don't have any problem with the maintaining them.
I believe, yeah, that we could ask the community which one we want to plant, and we can decide from there which is viable to plant.
So I think right now, especially when we have developments, we have the developer, they usually work with the landscaping team and they recommend and they submit their tree types and then we review it internally. So we do have staff that have the background in reviewing the types of trees, the benefits. So we are doing that right now for newer developments. So
and then another question I'll ask, like, how come we don't put like a flowering bushes instead trees? So, we still gonna have CO2, control of and climate warming, but we have purify our community that way, instead just having trees. And, if we put trees, like different type of trees we should put, so it's not like one tree fits for the whole, row of the housing there. Another thing I want to ask, how much did we spend last year on
The tree inventory?
yeah,
We spent
dealing with the trees, yeah.
11,000 including tax, because it was a $10,000 deal, and then plus tax it put us to 11 for the tree inventory.
And that was just Oakbank or those
Oakbank,
3
yeah.
communities?
That's just Oakbank, unfortunately.
We
yeah.
didn't do anything in
That's-
Anola and Dougal?
That's all the budget was allowed to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we have 2 options. We were just presented 1 option under that program. First option was 89,000. The second option was 36,000. I'm sorry, 45,000 and 36,000 from FCM, and municipality just gonna absorb 9,000 of that. Did we taking on consideration those options?
Sorry, could you repeat just quick?
There is two options from FCM. We can have one option for 89,000, and second option is for 45,000.
No, I think what you're referring to is Nomar's report. So depending on budget, if we go with the full scope of the projects, it's 89,000. And so he's just showing the 80%, 20%. If you want to reduce that program, that's another option, the 45,000. So that will be up to council to decide at the resolution stage which full program or half program you want to proceed with.
Okay, well, it's not presented like that here, but because I think it's $70,000 just for the consulting to the municipality. That's very huge expense. I thought that this company gonna actually do the service for us for this money, but just consulting us for $72,000, that's a huge expense. No matter who is paying for that.
Consulting is only 5,000, I believe.
Well, we have the chart was shown then that it's everything is consulting. It's nothing, no physical work that they're gonna be
No,
on.
like all those were broken up into the individual services that would be carried out. So it would be a physical tree inventory, a physical plan and report given to you. It's more than just consultancy. Those are actually
Well, that's
services.
consulting, counting trees, or you're physically not gonna go, and if there is branches that have to be cut, you're not gonna do it for us.
Not under this grant, that type of work isn't
So you're just consulting, yeah.
consulting
that's all
and
No, this is
That's what I
completing the
see.
tree inventory and then coming up with a plan for future planting, pruning, how we can maintain it ourselves. So they'll be creating those plans, but they're also doing the inventory of our current trees and
I
canopy.
understand, that's still consulting, that's not doing any physical work.
No, they're
for-
boots on the ground, counting the trees,
I understand, that's still
inspecting the
consulting.
canopy.
They don't go with the chainsaw and cutting the branches.
No, and that's not
for
what we
public
asked.
safety, yeah.
No, that's
That's
not what
what
we
I'm
asked
talking
of them
about,
to
yeah.
do.
Okay, that's question I wanna ask, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Great
Thank you for your time.
presentation, Omar, and
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
yourself, Mr. Peacock. There, appreciate all the work you guys are doing, and thank you.
Thank you.
Then we will go to 5.3. That's Mr. Giesbrecht there. As usual, Mr. Giesbrecht, 10 minutes when you start your name.
10? Were
10.
these gentlemen not getting 20 minutes?
No,
They didn't get 20 minutes? Oh,
no, 10.
They only got 10 each?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I looked at the agenda. It looked like they had 20 minutes each. In 10 minutes, I will be able to accomplish this. It's my delegation without interruptions. I should come in around 9 minutes, 46 seconds, Mr. Chair. Edwin Giesbrecht, RM of Springfield. Mr. Chair and Council, I'm here today to speak about governance, not personalities, not motives, not speculation. This delegation concerns how this municipality disposes of, discounts, and reclassifies public assets, including aggregate bearing land, under a framework that concentrates discretion while providing no independent safeguards for the 16,000 residents who actually own those assets, which are held by the municipality as a statutory corporation and may be dealt with only under statutory authority approved process and in the strictest public interest, not to be breached. Aggregate is not a routine municipal commodity. It is a finite, non-renewable public resource. A former Secretary Treasurer of this municipality stated clearly that aggregate reserves should never be sold or tampered with because they are held in trust for the public. I'm asking Council to identify where that principle exists in binding form because it does not appear in your bylaws or policy. The current framework allows Council by discretionary resolution to choose valuation methods, approve below market values, override market logic based on undefined transformational benefits, and permanently dispose of public assets without independent valuation or public consent. Even if every decision were made in good faith, this structure allows irreversible loss of public value. This is not stewardship, it is exposure. A reserve fund does not protect a public asset. It only manages the proceeds after the asset is gone. Council has relied on multiple reserve bylaws to suggest that public assets are being responsibly managed, but when examined closely, these instruments contradict one another. Bylaw 2210, the land sales reserve, assumes disposal is acceptable and focuses on where money goes after land is sold, not whether that land should ever be sold or at what value. Bylaw 1711, the so-called heritage reserve, never legally came into force at all. It received only first reading. It never bound council. Yet its concept has been relied upon to justify how aggregate revenues are handled. And even if it had passed, it would have allowed aggregate revenues to offset operating expenditures, treating depletion of a finite resource as interchangeable with cash. Bylaw 2515, the aggregate reserve, restricts how money may be spent, but places no restriction on alienation, undervaluation, depletion, or public consent. Taken together, these documents do not form a stewardship framework. They form a liquidation framework. Council has presented residents with a table showing 10 years of gravel revenues totaling approximately $4.1 million. Let's be very clear about what this table does and does not show. It shows cash received. It does not show volumes extracted, remaining reserves, market value versus discounted pricing, land value lost, future replacement cost, or long-term strategic value. Selling a non-renewable public asset cheaply and calling the cash revenue is not accounting. It is liquidation. Now let's do the math council did not do. Over 10 years, approximately $420,000 per year across 16,000 residents. That equals about $26 per resident per year. That is a pittance for the permanent loss of a strategic public asset. If this is the total benefit residents receive from aggregate depletion, then the framework is not protecting public value. It is monetizing it cheaply. No household would sell off a finite resource for $26 a year, yet this framework expects residents to accept exactly that. Council has demonstrated a willingness to grant preferred access to private organization. It's not an allegation of misconduct, but a statement that when discretionary asset decisions intersect with privileged access, residents lose any assurance that competitive process, not influence, determines outcomes. Historically, this municipality recognized that aggregate existed for the benefits of residents. For many years, residents were permitted one free load of gravel for driveway maintenance, a modest but tangible acknowledgement that this finite public resource did belong to the public. That practice disappeared without public debate or replacement policy. More recently, residents seeking to purchase gravel directly from the municipality have been denied access altogether. The result is a paradox. Residents are excluded from direct access to their own public resource while discretionary frameworks allow bulk disposition, discounting, or land alienation, benefiting third parties. That contradiction reflects a documented shift away from resident primacy toward discretionary allocation. Recent transactions demonstrate how public land with multi-million-dollar long-term value can be transferred for a fraction of that value under discretionary policy without independent valuation and without public approval. Whether intended or not, the result is a democratic deficit. This municipality has already seen how discretionary aggregate land frameworks can produce long-term scrutiny and institutional consequence, which is precisely why expanding that discretion now warrants caution. If a decision permanently removes a public asset from collective ownership, that decision does not belong solely to 5 councillors voting on an afternoon agenda. It belongs to the residents. This municipality requires public approval to borrow money, yet this framework allows council to permanently dispose of non-renewable public assets, often worth far more than any borrowing, without public consent. Voting for a council is not consent to dispose of specific public assets at an unknown future date under undisclosed terms. That distinction matters. The following questions are directed to council and are part of my oral delegation. 1, Where specifically in bylaw 2515 or any related policy is aggregate legally protected as public trust asset rather than merely a discretionary revenue source. 2, what independent arm's length safeguards exist to prevent aggregate bearing land or public land from being undervalued, given the council may determine valuation methods in its absolute discretion. 3, under the land sale policy, council may approve below market sales based on transformational possibilities, what objective tests, measurable criteria, or enforceable post-sale conditions ensure residents receive equivalent or greater value. 4, how does council publicly account for the depletion of aggregate as a non-renewable resource relative reserve inflows, including volumes extracted, pricing, and long-term replacement value? 5, what formal protection exists for residents if council, acting within policy, approves the disposal or discounting of public assets in a way that permanently strips public value? 6, what controls exist to ensure that private organizations with regular access to council do not receive preferential influence in decisions involving public assets? 7, why does this municipality require public approval to incur debt but not to permanently alienate non-renewable public assets whose value may exceed that debt many times over? It's not an allegation of wrongdoing. It is a governance warning. The current framework allows public assets, including non-renewable aggregate, to be classified, discounted, and transferred without independent valuation, without enforceable public benefit, and without resident consent. That is how municipalities lose millions in public value while remaining technically policy compliant. If council believes these safeguards exist, it should be able to point to them clearly and publicly. If they do not exist, council has an obligation to stop, acknowledge the gap, and return decisions of irreversible public consequence to the residents who actually own these assets, particularly where those decisions are being advanced during an active election cycle when restraint is traditionally recognized as prudent governance. At a public WMR meeting, the mayor articulated in substance the principle that decisions of significant consequence are better deferred during an election cycle, allowing a newly elected council to proceed with a fresh, confident, and competent mandate. That principle applies with particular force where decisions involve the permanent alienation of public assets. Proceeding now risks binding future governance to irreversible outcomes without renewed democratic consent. Public trust is not maintained by discretion. It is maintained by consent.
1 minute, Mr. Giesbrecht.
If a decision permanently removes a public asset from the collective ownership of 16,000 residents, that decision belongs to the residents, and any contrary action requires safeguards beyond council discretion alone. Madam Clerk, I have copies of the questions asked orally during my delegation, provided solely for accuracy and completeness of the public record. If you could distribute that to council, and one for you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Giesbrecht.
Let's make sure they're stapled properly. Is there just one there? Oh, one for you, one for each. Thank you, man. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just a point, Mr. Giesbrecht, if you would have sent that to us in advance, we would have been able to answer the
I only
questions
just
tonight.
completed that. Just, you notice I came in here within minutes of my date and my time. So I just completed that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any questions from council?
Oh,
Councilor
yes,
Miller?
Councilor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Giesbrecht, for your presentation and your concerns. I just wanted on the record that I'm not willing or eager to sell any aggregate resources from our municipality to anyone at this particular point, probably in the future as well. But my question is, are you concerned about any particular or specific property that's before council that we are considering? Because
well, I don't want to point particular fingers, but I believe there was an application of a request some months ago to carry on what was a previous sale in a previous term under the previous council along the border of Birds Hill Park, where that property was sold for, I think, around 234 or 284,000, which potentially could have been worth as much as 5 million. And the balance of the land, which was 1,100 feet in frontage still on Birds Hill Park, was requested to be purchased. It was under their leasehold, which was granted to them. There's some serious questions to that. We've held that particular gravel pit since 1921, and it should never have gone to anybody except to the public. That's all.
Thank you for that explanation. In terms of a lease to a private entity or a group or organization, I think I'm amenable to that as long as they don't exploit the resource, but I guess it would come case by case, right? So I wouldn't want to lose the asset to the community, but if we we're going to lease it and they had a good undertaking or what do you call a vision for the property that didn't exploit the resource,
Yes.
for us, I think it's worth considering.
It's more than worth considering because it is income. It is a revenue stream. And generally it comes from some company of substance that is not going to default. However, as construction and aggregate goes, it's generally seasonal. So what I would suggest is, yes, a lease on a seasonal basis, season over season, not leasing out something for 5, 10, or 30 years.
Yeah, and it was case by case. I can't talk about past generations, but it would have been nice if all of our aggregate was still in the hands of the RM, but I'm not a communist, so I can't go down that path. So
God bless you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giesbrecht.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Then we can go to new business. 6.1 will be our first one there. That's Municipal Aggregate Reserve Fund. If I get a mover and a seconder for that, please. What's that?
Don't need a resolution for this.
Oh, okay. Next one up is 6.1 Municipal Aggregate Reserve Fund. So any points discussion with regards to that?
So I think this item, the Municipal Aggregate Reserve Fund draft bylaw was presented to council quite early in 2025. And it was deferred for more information. And so this is kind of our first committee of the whole that we've had in a little while, just based on our schedule. So this has been waiting to come back to council. I think I'm talking as loud as everybody else is, but
You can sit right there, Mr. Spears.
so this has been waiting to come back to council for more information. So I think specifically Councillor Kaczynski was requesting information to be provided before any decisions were made on this. So one of his requests was to review the land sale policy, the land sales reserve bylaw, and to receive the gravel revenues over the last 10 years. So we've put those documents on the agenda for council. I've also added the heritage reserve bylaw because I think this is part of the discussion that needs to take place depending on where the direction of council goes. So Blaine is here as he does the most work with the aggregate in Springfield. So we've provided the information and we're just here to answer any questions that council would have. So I guess just to go back to the aggregate reserve bylaw, what we were proposing that any funds from sale of municipal aggregate lands, provincial levies, or aggregate leases can be placed into this reserve, and it would always be done at the end of the year through a resolution of council, depending on budget numbers. So
I could, that tour that we had that was put on by our Director of Public Works, Blaine, there was exceptional. To give you an eye, I think all of council was there. It gave us an exceptional idea of how much land that we have that's open to us there. But we need a dedicated fund to get a a proper evaluation of what's below the ground, and then we could use our land sale policy there for classifying it and under those 4 classifications and look to sell it if need be, or just keep it as much of that area is pasture land and so on, but you don't know what's underneath it. And aggregate, I remember seeing a study there maybe before I was starting the campaign. That area in a large broad stroke is full of aggregate. You know, it could be just all sand, which is basically of no use to us, but it is of use to other people there. But it's the traffic aggregate that's got the huge price that's with regards to that, and it's only going to get higher. But the further we go out, you know, it's the costlier it is to bring it towards the city, which is the big consumer of our aggregate there. So having something like that, I think, is a good thing to have. So we know what we have in the ground, and like we have for our trees there, Nomar is putting a value which adds to our assessment value in the RM. So having the same thing, but now underground to see what our value is of our aggregate. Again, the analogy being the trees above. Now we should learn to see what's below us there and see what our value is. We could be sitting on a huge amount of money somewhere down the line. This is a plan that's going to be of use to us generations down the road. So this is something, instead of just looking at a very small scope, and year-wise there, it's good for the next generation or 2 or 3 going forward. That's what I understand from our tour and so on, which was, like I say, very, very good, informative tour. Any other questions, comments from Council? Councillor Kaczynski?
Thank you. I have a few questions. Maybe somebody can answer. What is considered surplus funds?
Sorry, did you say surplus lands or funds?
No, funds.
Funds?
Yes.
So I think if you look at that document that's attached, the gravel revenues over the last 10 years, so there's 2 columns. There's guaranteed sales and then there's actual sales. So guaranteed sales is how much we put into lease contracts that they have to remove a certain amount at a negotiated price. So those are the numbers we budget for. The actual sales is sometimes they take more out than they expected. They, you know, got a big project. They need to generate more aggregate out of the pit. So actual sales is what we actually receive from that producer. So basically, between your guaranteed and your actual sales, if there's more money coming in, we consider that surplus funds coming in over the budget.
Mm-hmm. So next question, what is the purpose of the new bylaw?
So as you indicated, we have, or you requested, the land sales reserve policy. So there's lots of land that we require to purchase for drainage or other opportunities, new buildings. So that is specific to that. What we're suggesting is the aggregate reserve would be specific to aggregate related activities. So it would separate the two so that, you know, we're not competing between the land sale on whether we spend it on aggregate activities or we buying drainage land. So because this surplus money is coming specifically from aggregate activities, we want to store that in an aggregate reserve only.
How many special reserve funds do we have right now in our municipality?
I would have to check. I don't want to guess. I guess that's on our financial statements. We do an outline. There's 12 to 15, I would think, special reserves.
Okay, so the next questions, yeah, we can, I guess, get that answer later. Next question is the intent of this bylaw to take the revenue from the aggregate to the municipality has been getting for over the last 10 years and put into the reserves?
No, this would be going forward.
So we don't have anything in the reserves now from aggregate, from the different, when we use the different reserves?
So we don't have a specific reserve to do with aggregate. So if it was sale of land, it would go in the sale of land reserve. If it was, you know, any other kind of surplus monies, it typically goes into the general reserve. And that's where we're pulling out of based on the budget item.
Okay. So if that recent 400 or 500,000 that was being received annually, that was used for as another revenue source or in our budget, how would that money be replaced in the future budgets?
Well, it's activities we're doing now. So we're either taking it out of the general reserve or it's going on the general mill rate. So this would just allow us to say, we want to do testing on this piece of land to see if there's aggregate, that we know there's money set aside in this reserve fund that we could use, and it would be dedicated just for that.
I understand, but how we replace the money that we take and it's put in a
So we're
special
not-
reserves, because we're gonna have lots of money in the reserves and we have no operation budget. So then we're gonna say to our resident, well, we're short of money for our operation, then we're gonna have to tax you more, but yet money sitting in a reserves accounts.
Well, I think over the last 3 years, we don't budget that it's replacing funds. We budget based on the funds we have. So whether it's coming from the general reserve or the aggregate reserve or from the mill rate, you set the budget that we can work with based on the increase in taxes that you're comfortable with, and that's the money we use. So this is not us having to find a replacement money. It's just securing that money for these activities in a reserve.
I understand, but you secured that money, you cannot use it then for the general revenue for you know, service the community, like for roads or anything else. It's sitting there.
And that's why it's always a year of end discussions. We see how the budget, if we have a surplus, those are the discussions we have with council at that time to say, we have this surplus and this is much is coming from aggregate activities. This is the amount we want to secure in the reserve. And council says yes or no.
Okay. Is this bylaw precursor to the municipality spending more money to start up its own aggregate operation?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Is this bylaw precursor, I'm sorry, to the municipality spending more money to start up our own aggregate operation?
No, it's not.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor, if you.
Yeah, the question I have was with the Heritage Reserve bylaw. I believe on council at one point in time was putting monies towards that, and that's kind of changed now. So, you know, how much are we using this fund? You know, if we read the actual bylaw, it states that we're supposed to put the reserve together and cannot spend it till it generates a minimum of 100,000 in interest. So I don't know. I don't know how this bylaw is being used right now. I don't believe it's
The Heritage Reserve.
Yes.
So right now we have, I just checked the amount last week. We have just under 529,000 in that Heritage Reserve. And the interest being calculated annually is $1,300. So it's going to be, you know, a long, long, long time before that money can even be touched.
Yeah, so I would agree we need to take a good look at this bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. What would the aggregate reserve fund be used for at the end of the day? What kind of projects or initiatives would it be used?
So right now we've been over the last few years taking a good look at our land, RM owned land and that inventory. And so right now we suspect there could be aggregate, but without proper testing. Testing is expensive and it typically doesn't make the budget every year as much as we would like to do the testing and kind of make a call on whether that land should be saved for aggregate or could it be sold off. So a lot of it would be aggregate testing, even material processing, storage, acquiring lands. There could be equipment acquisition required, transportation costs. So everything specific to aggregate related activities could be considered to be spent under this reserve fund.
Any other questions? I see none. Then if we can, Councillor Kaczynski.
Yes, I would like to ask more question about the heritage reserves here. So the principal amount must be retained. So it's not clear what the portion of is or how or who determine it. Who's going to determine?
Who's to determine how to use the Heritage Fund reserve?
Yes, yeah.
Well, right now it's determined we can't even touch the money in there until we're generating 100,000 or more in interest. And right now we're only generating $1,300 a year. So by the time we can even touch this money, I mean, that reserve amount would have to be millions and millions of dollars.
So what we saving, what this account is for then, Heritage?
It was to save money for future generations to deal with aggregate operations, but I think the intent of it was good, but I think the practicality is not. So.
And that's why we have to review and see what we can do, like how we can improve that.
I agree with Deputy Mayor Fuel and Councillor Kaczynski. I guess we have to look at why are we able to maybe look at absorbing that into our aggregate bylaw or doing something with that. And like I say, it's at $1,300 a year average there. It'll take many years to get up, many generations to get up to that heritage reserve. To put it into the aggregate reserve, I think is an option. But yeah, we have to explore that a little bit further. I totally agree.
Yes, it says here in the report about the gravel revenues over the past year of sale of gravel total $4,199,317. As of November 30th, 25, the balance in the account was $142,265. So we spend this money on general revenue.
So right now, the process is at the end of the year, we look at our books, we see whether we have a deficit or surplus. When we have a surplus, we do recommend to council that we put some of that money into our various reserves to help build that up. A lot of time the money is just going into surplus or like accumulated surplus. So we try to avoid that. We'd prefer to put the money away into specific purpose reserves. If that made sense.
Well, general surplus, like where is money going? What is general surplus like?
Well, a lot of times it goes into accumulated surplus, and then when we're doing the next year's budget to help keep the mill rate down, we can pull from accumulated surplus. So I know in the past we've pulled maybe $300,000 out of it to help stabilize the mill rate in future years.
So how much money we have now in accumulated surplus?
That would be an AMRAM discussion. It's kind of complicated with PSAB, but the number on paper does not mean actual money in the bank. It's a combination of money and assets.
Can we ask AMRAM to provide that information?
Yeah, that's definitely a discussion he'd have to have with council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see no more questions. Then if we can proceed on to 6.2, that's a curbside waste and recycling changes planned for March of 2026.
Okay, so we did attach a poster that we will be putting out to the public, but just for council information, Mterra, our collection company for garbage and recycling, would like to move the Monday curbside waste and recycling pickup to Fridays beginning March 1st, 2026. So going forward, there will be no collection in Springfield on Mondays. This allows Emterra to maximize the tonnage and time on the collection trucks, which will then free up Mondays to allow for additional expansion in the areas as we need and as we grow that program. So we've drafted up the notices. We're going to get that out on February 11th. So tomorrow we'll be putting that out on social media, email blasts, and our website, and get that into the paper. So we suspect it's going to take a few weeks for the rural route residents to kind of get adjusted to this change. There may be complaints because I know the Mondays are typically a long weekend, so sometimes we'll have carts out a little longer than we want, but I think people will adjust and it should be a smooth transition. So really just for council information, and that this will be coming out. So if you have residents inquiring with you, you have the details attached there.
Any questions at all?
The change is just happening like on Friday, yeah? The rest almost stay the same.
Yeah, everything will stay the same, just the Monday change.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. See no more questions, then if we can go on to 6.3, Springfield Open House Community Meeting.
So you may have seen we have some signs along some of the highways, and we've been putting up posters around the municipality, but the council and staff are putting on an open house on Thursday, February 19th from 7 to 10 p.m. at the Oakbank Baptist Church. So some of the topics we'll be covering are WMR update, lagoon expansion, the recreation center, CO Silica, leasing update, capital projects, and the Dow's water treatment project. So it's not kind of being a come and go. It's going to be a structured presentation where we'll provide an update and then open it up for questions and answers. And then at the end of the evening, depending on the time, it'll be open to any other items for discussion.
Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very pleased to see the format of this. This builds on what Councillor Kaczynski and I have been doing for almost the last 3 years, and it's worked really well to see the public input, the feedback, the concerns shared, and so forth. So I expect good participation. I know that I've shared it on social media so far, and it's been picked up in East St. Paul and other communities as well. So thank you for changing the format to meet the expectations of our community.
Yeah, and this is we've been having the RM have been having our open houses as well. So this is just another open house that we're having there, and it's going to be hopefully enough people get there, new people that can give us an insight of what they're thinking as well. It's not just on these 8 or 7 topics. Somebody else have their hand up here? Councillor Kaczynski?
Yes, thanks. I would like to ask how much time we're going to allocate for presentation and how much for question period, or we just have one presentation and then question period, then another subject. How are we going to structure that?
So a way I've been discussing it with staff is that we would provide just a short update on the project, open it up for questions. When the questions cease, then we move on to the next topic, and we'll continue along that for the night.
Okay. So we have like what 6 items on the agenda. So within 3 hours, so like half hour for one questions or something like this. So how much time gonna be for presentation in that half hour, and how much for the question period? Like how many presenters we gonna have on each subject? Just one presenter, or?
I think we're discussing that this week further with staff. So each department head is kind of responsible for a project. So I'm going to ask the person that's most familiar with that project to just give a brief update. It won't be long. And then we'll open it up to questions. So if it takes half an hour or 20 minutes, we'll just have to see how many people show up and how many people have questions and engage it from there.
So 10 minutes for presentation and 20 minutes for question period?
I think it's just going to flow the way it flows. We'll all find out when we get there.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions, then we can move on to 2025, a year in review. Any comments with regards to that? I thought it was well done there. I'm trying to remember, did we add in there about the pedestrian traffic lights or pedestrian lights that we've put in Oakbank and Dugald? I don't know if I saw anything about that.
I've read it a few times, but that doesn't pop out. But I think we talked about active transportation.
Like I say, I read it a while back there, and I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. So I don't remember seeing it there, but I'm wondering if we could include that somehow in there.
Yeah,
It's
we
already
can add a line about that if it's not in there. That wouldn't be hard to do.
okay. Any other questions or comments there? Councillor Kaczynski.
I have no question but comment, but that was really nicely done, and you know all the departments are participating in it, and community gonna be really aware what's happening or what happened and what it's happening in the future, like Lauren Hill Road, Deacon Road, 3 miles, because people are asking, yeah, when this project gonna be completed. So that's very, very nice to done, and people be really satisfied with knowledge that providing to the community. Thank you.
Did we upgrade the PAR, PAAR, I believe it is, in Vivian?
The Hunter Parr Park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that inside here at all?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was long overdue, but that's good to see. Okay, Deputy Mayor.
I realize, and I think the report was done really good, the review. One thing I did notice was there was no information on SHHI, and I know it's an arm of the RM of Springfield, so I thought maybe there could have been some mention of that we went into construction, and just one piece that I thought would be important to be in there. Thank you.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, we talked about that, but like you said, it's kind of an arm's length. And so then do we include others like that? So it was something we decided it was hard to fit in a lot more, but yeah, we can definitely consider that.
And our pool as well. Let's get another page, but yeah, no, I think it's an excellent job. Sometimes it's you get these extra eyes and you see that there, but no, I think it's an excellent job. Great pictures as well. Any other questions? I see none. Then we'll go to a closed meeting there. If I can get a mover and a seconder to go into a closed meeting. Terrian and Warren, those in support, show of hands. Unanimous.
Recording stopped.
I'm ready. Oh, no. Yep.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. We are out of closed meeting at 3:20, back on the air here. prepared to go to adjournment. If there's any questions, time to do it, and I see none. Then if I can get a mover and a seconder to come out of close a meeting. Mark? So that's unanimous. Then I get a show of hands in support of the coming out and adjournment. Throw it all in there. So at 3:20, we'll adjourn the meeting, and thank you very much.
Recording stopped.